Hey, what's up everybody? All right, we're going to do another songwriting lesson. I just had the same student I did before when we talked about kind of melody building over chord structure. This one is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about dynamics and relating it to body language. So we're going to focus a lot on our right hand. Now, I do have a whole video. I'm going to get into it just a little bit for you guys that are starting with guitar and making guitar your primary writing and performing instrument. I have a few students that went from keyboards to guitars. So they're great musicians, but there's a right hand technique that's definitely missing. And people that are progressing quickly and wanting to get out and showcase and perform on guitar, there's this same issue that we're all seeing, and that is kind of coming out at a 50 to 70%, more like 60 to 70% volume in their right hand technique, right? And the reason why is there's a safety in that. You can really feel what you're doing, right? And the feeling matches up with the volume. Now, if you start scaling that back, what happens is the feeling starts to get a little bit lost. This is the same thing that we say when I talk about the hammer effect, right? So when anytime when you're growing up, baseball bat, whether it's a hammer, we see that problem in our left hand with new guitar students where they just want to hold it, right? And they grip it like this. They don't realize that they don't need to. There should be like a ton of room down here, which is very uncomfortable because you're used to holding it like this, and you don't need to squeeze the hell out of the strings. That is another problem that we're seeing. So we want to now train in the same way our right hand. So what happens is if you come out of the gate, those muscles that are allowing you to play that loud are the only muscles that are getting trained. And it's just like if you were to sprint as fast as you can for as long as you can, and then you stop, and then walking, slowly, you get like a little wobbly, right? Because the smaller muscle groups used to just casually walk are exhausted by the bigger ones that were overexerted. So what I want to do is just get everyone just really comfortable with barely strumming at all. And for some of you guys, you already are. You can move ahead a little bit in the video, but just nice and easy. And then that'll start training those smaller muscle groups. You can't take the big muscle groups and train your way down. You can only take the small ones and train yourself back up. Smaller muscle groups and then adding a little bit more and a little bit more musculature. And that's the same when we're talking about speed with our left hand. So nice and easy. Make sure you can do it. For some of you guys that aren't used to this, you're barely touching the strings. Even if you're using a pick, you're barely letting that pick in there. All right? And you will feel a little tiny bit of tiredness. It's not the same as when you get tired at a full swing because the muscles are smaller, but you will feel a little bit of tiredness. Also, there's a few muscle groups that are happening when you're at like a full swing, and that really is that motion, the muscle that stops it, and then the muscle that goes back up again. And what we really want is, instead of that, really what you're just doing is down, stop, up, stop, right? You're just trying to do it as quickly as possible, but a little bit more of like a fluid motion between all those. So all of those muscles are engaged at all times and they're going in and out rather than up, down, up. So another reason why training light is always the best. So anyway, that being said, let's get into the actual purpose of this lesson. When you're coming out with that has a very big presence, whether the chords, this is a very, typical major chord progression, right? There's a lot of, it's very anthemic, and it wants to match whatever you're saying, and hopefully that does make sense. It totally can. Now, if we want to take the body language of what we're playing and match a little bit more to what we're saying, we're going to want to add a lot of dynamic. So the way that I look at this is the chords and the melody is a little bit more of like what it is that you're saying, and then how you're delivering it with your right hand is your body language and your delivery, okay? So something as simple as I love you. It could be I love you. And that's it, finalized, it's over. To me, that's what that sounds like, right? Now, if we start getting into I love you, it starts sounding like, wait a minute, we're not quite done yet, or like, I love you? It's like, oh, I just realized it, but there's something else wrong. There's so many ways to deliver that, and then that's just negating body language even. as you're saying it. So if we're taking those same chords and we're not just singing this big anthemic, I love you and everything is fine type deal, we want to start dipping down and allowing the body language of what we're strumming to deliver it a little bit more. Now this almost reminds me of in something like that, I like the randomness. The randomness is a little bit more conversational, right? Where instead of just taking this strumming pattern and saying, all right, on these strokes I'm going to go soft, and on these I'm going to go heavy. You have a little bit more randomness that sounds a little bit more conversational, Right? And that's that push-pull. Even if, let's say you were having a conversation with somebody and you're speaking, and then you're kind of not really sure how to say the next thing that you want to say, right? So that would be, if lyrically, to match up with the mood of you're saying everything is fine, you're saying I love you, but there's a little bit of uncertainty in there for whatever reason. Obviously, then that would be displayed in the lyric. So it's got a little bit more of the body language to it. I like it with Patty Griffin's "Let 'Em Fly." It definitely has a little bit more of that conversational feel, and it definitely fits the mood. Even what she's doing with her left hand actually is not super duper consistent, because conversations are not always consistent and structured. Same thing now if you're using your finger picking style. Even if I were to stay, I love hearing it on one chord. The one chord is very steady. There's a lot there's a lot to hold on to when there's no chord changes. So you get this very steady sentence structure that's being delivered in a slightly unsteady way, and that's just. And even using that space and utilizing the fact that sounds different than that, just those two different tonalities are really, really something to mess around with. The mood that delivers to me, if I was at an open mic and everybody was coming out and they were, just trying to give their best, and someone just had an intro like that with just one chord just on a G, I feel like there's so much being said there. And then as we're getting into a song structure, a lot of times the verses can be a little bit like kind of, I almost like think like filled with cracks, and filled with uncertainty, and then it really opens up in the chorus, which is perfect, because if that's what you're doing. It lends itself a lot to just a nice, open, way more structured feel behind it. If your chorus delivers that, your chorus kind of delivers that kind of structure or not. So anyway, that's the lesson. I hope you guys liked it. I wanted to get a little bit less left-hand technical on this one. So the last one that we did, we talked about melody over the chord structure. This is delivering the chord structure in a certain way to match the lyric and openness for whatever melody that you want to put in there.